Hello and welcome back to The Betting Heat, a series where we take the big race of the weekend and cover it. I'm joined by familiar face in Ryan. How are you doing, Ryan?
All good, thank you, mate. All good.
And a face you most probably won't have seen on this channel. That's Tom Pearson. How are you doing, Tom?
Not too bad, thank you, apart from incessantly tipping losers in 2021.
It's exactly what the viewers wanted to hear when they tuned into this.
Well, overdue one.
That's the way to look at it. This week, we're going to be covering the classic handicap chase at Warwick, the 3 o'clock, a Grand National trial as such. It sprung up a winner of 1 for a few years ago, and we had an impressive winner last year as well. There's a few here that are unexposed, I think we will say, and then one that's most probably, and a few that are also very unexposed. But we'll start from the top of the market. We'll go for Not a Chance. Ryan, what's your thoughts on Not a Chance?
I think he's too short on what he's proved. Last time out, he was well gambled when he won over 3 miles at Bangor, and I think he went sort of, a lot of people missed him really on that occasion. I think he opened up sort of 16s and ended up going off 6-1 and won easily in the end. But he's got stamina to prove still, and when they've got stamina to prove sort of at this level, I don't think you can be backing him at 7-2 when you've got other alternatives in here. You just don't know how well if he can improve again anyway. So yeah, he's not for me at the price. I'm not sure how Tom feels about a 7-2 shot who hasn't even ran over the distance.
Well, I wouldn't be backing him at 7-2, but he's the one at the top of the market that I kind of preferred the most. That's not to say that I will be backing him, but yeah, I think he's just improved from run to run over fences. He seems to be one who, the quicker they go, the better for him. I think in a race like this, particularly with Captain Chaos, he's going to go off hell for leather. I think he's an absolute dour stare. I think looking at his Bangor win, he outstayed the 2 Amigos. He's obviously run really well in the Welsh National since, albeit that was probably his target. He won't have been fully wound up for Bangor. But I think the way he stayed on at the finish, I'd have to be very positive about him getting those extra 5 furlongs personally. But 7-2, bit short. I'd probably want 5-1, 11-2 to be backing him. But yeah, I think he's the most likely towards the head of the market for me personally.
I've got a very, very similar notes. I actually had him down as a proper stayer. I actually think he'll really suit this extra 5 furlongs. He's only 7 years old, so there's plenty of time for him to continue improving. I would say that I think he will drift out before the off. We're filming this on a Wednesday, and if this sustained gamble on Captain Chaos, who we'll talk about now, continues, then Not a Chance could definitely be going off sort of 6-1, 7-1, and at that price, I'd be looking at him with a scumbag each way bet. Captain Chaos, he's obviously been absolutely smashed in following being declared for this on Monday. I understand the reason. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. I'll start with you, Tom. What's your thoughts on Captain Chaos?
I think it's very much a price thing. I think he's definitely not one to be backing now at these prices. Anti-post, he's about 6-1 because you definitely want the blinkers to be back on. You just need to look at his record. He was second in this last year off a £2 low mark. I think he traded near 1-2 in running before just getting outstayed by Kimberlite Candy. Kimberlite Candy's obviously a really strong stare, a very progressive horse. Probably my fancy for the National at this stage, so there's no harm in getting beat by him. And they were a good way clear of the third as well. He then came out to Doncaster and absolutely hacked up in the Grimthorpe under a very aggressive ride on heavy ground. The only issue that I have with that is that Doncaster's very much a front runner's course over the chase course anyway, so I think he was probably a little bit flattered by that because he was given an easy lead. Again, I think that's when he's going to be best, when getting an easy lead. I don't think he's going to get an easy lead here, but I can completely see the appeal. Obviously, all of his best form is with Harry Skelton riding and the blinkers on. So, yeah, just keep an eye out for the blinkers tomorrow at Declarations if you backed them before. And there's no blinkers. Hit that cash out button if you can.
Definitely. I was going to say that there does look to be a lot of pace on. He won't have an easy lead out in front. Ryan, are you sweeter on the chance of Captain Chaos?
I'd second what Tom said about the blinkers. He definitely needs them back on. If you go through the form, he won in first-time blinkers at Aintree in 2017, won again with them on the next time, and then ran 2 good races. And they've obviously taken them off to get the handicap mark down on a few occasions. You can see that going back through the form. They came off, and then they put them back on for this race last year as well, where he ran really well. And like Tom said, he absolutely hacked up at Doncaster, and that probably was flatter. And I don't think the RPR of 147 is probably accurate on that. So he went up to 142, and they took headgear off again and just letting him come down. And if he doesn't have blinkers on tomorrow, I'm not sure what the plan will be for him. You can only assume they are going to be back on, because he definitely improves for headgear. Even when he's had cheek pieces on before, he's improved. So any type of headgear, even if they don't go for the blinkers and they put the cheek pieces back on, I think he's got a solid chance. But yeah, he will set the pace, but he might be up there with a few. But if the blinkers are on, he'll go from the front, and I think he'll be well handicapped back where he is again now.
Storm Control is right near the top of the market. Now, this horse has picked up 2 wins at Cheltenham quite recently. He's going to have his stamina tested this time around. This is a little bit further. I watched back that run last time out at Cheltenham, where he looked to have the race absolutely sewn up, and then just sort of stopped almost to a halt, and then found again. Was the gas running low there, Tom, or was there just had plenty in the tank still?
I don't think the gas was running low, to be honest. I think he was just idling. If you watch it again, I think Potter's Corner, sorry. Yeah, Potter's Corner and Court Maids, they started to kind of catch up on him. And as soon as they got within kind of eye shot, I think he started to pick up again. So I think he's just a very lazy horse. I think it's shocking, because I was actually waiting for him back over 2.5 miles somewhere like Doncaster or Wetherby before he's started massively improving over 3 miles plus. Obviously, he's still got that 3 mile 5 to prove. But yeah, I'm very much of the opinion that the trip's going to be fine. But I think he is definitely one that I think he'll throw a bit of a sulk, to be honest, when he doesn't get his own way out in front. I think he's a big place left for me personally.
I looked back at Storm Control's form, and he's actually 0 from 3 around Warwick. Ryan, have you read into that at all, or was it just is he just an informed horse who's going the right way over a further distance now?
I don't think you can read too much into prior form with him. When he went over 3 miles in November at Cheltenham, I remember watching an interview with Kerry Lee, and she wasn't even sure he'd stay 3 miles, and it was she was sort of humming and ahhing whether he should even be running at 3 miles, and let alone whether he'd stay at 3 miles. So it was a bit weird that he even went over 3 miles, and obviously he won, so they kept him over 3 miles again, won again, and they sort of running out of options with him, I think, at 3 miles, and looks like he's got stamina. I agree with what Tom said. It looked like probably just idling last time out, sort of got bored and sort of didn't have anything to really compete against until the others were closing, but definitely will stay. Probably too short, but if Storm Control won by 5 lengths, I don't think anyone would be surprised, just on the unexposed side of the form, really.
Nearly Perfect is a really interesting horse. He's only a 7-year-old, and obviously chasing was going to be the game. He ran on a point-to-point, and he managed to split 2 very classy horses in Appreciate and Envoyalen. They wasted no time getting him over a fence. He was a maiden over hurdles and got a top rating of 117. He's had 5 starts of offences, and now he's 135. Is there still scope for improvement with him, or have you been impressed with him at all, Ryan?
I backed him last time out, and you know, you get them horses when you back them and they win, you sort of get a bit attached to them maybe for the next time out. Obviously not deliberately, but looking at this, I think he's probably a step too far for him. He's going to be off 10 stone 1 the current weight. Jack Andrews has been on a couple of times in his chases, so I'm not sure whether they'll stick Bryony on or Quinlan will be back on, or whether Jack Andrews can. I don't even know if he can do the weight, to be honest. But last, I wasn't impressed that much. Last, I don't think he beat a lot. He won easily in the end from the front, and I wouldn't be keen on him at a single figure price for this. I think the ones next to his form sort of flatter him and make his price a bit shorter than it should be. So I certainly wouldn't be backing him at current prices.
Tom, do you share the same opinion, or?
Yeah, but for a completely different reason, because Neil King said on Racing TV he probably wasn't going to run today. So he said he's more than likely to sidestep it in favour of an easier option next week. So hold all anti-post bets, even if you do fancy him. I personally wouldn't have fancied him anyway. I think it's a huge step up in class. I don't think he's good enough personally, but Yeah.
Danny Whizbang is a horse that I would have absolutely no confidence in. He obviously beat Reserve Tank in a race where Reserve Tank didn't turn up. He's had 4 runs since, and he's been beaten a combined 74 lengths, and that's not including when he was tailed off and pulled up the last day. I think he wants quicker ground, and he's unlikely to get that here. Tom, what do you think of Danny Whizbang?
He's a bit of a tricky one to assess because he's a horse that I've always liked. But his 2 starts this season, to say he's 10-1, isn't he? That's awfully short about a horse who's been beaten, like you said, what was it, 70 lengths? I mean, I know there were obviously good races. There was the Hennessy, the Ladbrokes, and the Badger Beers. So they're both pretty solid races. I think he actually went off favourite for the Badger Beers as well, didn't he? But I personally could not be backing a horse who's got such terrible form this season. I think the difference between him and Captain Chaos is that Captain Chaos is a horse that looks like he could be plotted. I'm not sure Danny Whizbang strikes as the type. I don't think you plot a horse for a race like this by running them in the Badger Beers and the Ladbroke Trophy. I just couldn't have him on my mind personally.
Can you make a case for him at all, Ron?
No, I could have done at the start of the year, and I would have made a case for him at Wincanton. I think everyone was expecting big things from him this year. He was much a similar profile to Master Tommy Tucker that Nichols said he could be a graded horse and just needs that bit of improvement out of him. But he went off 4-1 in the Badger Beers and finished 31 lengths behind the winner. And then he's pulled up last time out. But even if you go back through his form where he has looked good, when he's beat Reserve Tank, I mean, what's Reserve Tank done since that season when he won at Aintree? He hasn't done anything. He got beaten 20 lengths by Slatehouse. Well, that form isn't any good anymore. 23 lengths by Copperhead. Again, that form isn't the best. So I think maybe even off this current mark, his form isn't even near anywhere good enough to win a race like this, and let alone stamina to prove it, not a contender for me at all. I think, like you say, maybe on good ground. I think he might be a spring horse, come up somewhere in the spring and win a handicap somewhere off of sort of 140, but definitely not for this race.
You both seem very downbeat about the horses near the head of the market, so I'm very interested to find out who you actually fancy for the race. I'll leave it open to you guys to talk about any horses you want to talk about. So, Ryan, have you got anyone in the field that you'd like to have a mention for?
Yeah, I think Petite Power for Fergal O'Brien is overpriced currently. I think it's 25-1 available. Hasn't had the rub of the green sort of so far this season, getting beaten a combined sort of 70 lengths. But if you go back to last year's form, finished third in this race last year, going Kimberlite Candy. Liam Harrison's always taken the ride, so he's never been off the horse. The horse is down to 1-2-2 now with a further 7 off. Does want soft ground, so that'll be key to him. He ran a couple of races on good ground sort of this season, so that they were never going to favour him. But I think he's a huge price on what he's done previously. I think this season he's either being dropped in the handicap for this, or maybe he's completely gone because he is a 12-year-old after all. But 25-1, I'd be willing to take a chance on him, and he's already dropped up as well.
Would that be your selection for the race?
Other than Captain Chaos, if the blinkers went on, he would be.
No worries. And Tom, anyone else in the field that deserves a mention and your selection as well?
Yeah, there's one that I quite like. Not a guaranteed runner because he's not jocked up at the minute, but it's Akil for Venetia Williams. I'm hoping that he's an intended runner. Venetia's not really one that wastes entry fees, so I think he probably will be running. But he's been off the track for well over a year. But I think we all know that Venetia Williams is one of the best trainers there is for readying one from a fairly long layoff. And this horse actually has some good form fresh as well. He's second off a 200 plus day absence at Bangor to Same Circus. Now that horse at the time had some previous course and distance form. She'd already won at the track and trip. He was second to West Approach at Cheltenham, and that was off a break as well. I mean, it doesn't sound that good form because we all know that West Approach is a massive pig, but he was just given an absolutely hellish ride from Robbie Power that day. That was how the horse needs to be ridden every single time. And obviously Potter's Legend was in there. He was a length back in third as well, but there was 20 lengths back to Ramsey to tie. Big River was pulled up that day, so the form of that race is pretty strong. if you look at his chase form since 2018, that reads 2-2, 1-1, pulled up 1-2. So he's quite consistent himself. And the day he was pulled up, he was found to have an irregular heartbeat, so you can completely ignore that run. And the fact that he's run really well a couple of times since shows that it's not like an underlying issue that's going to resurface, or at least it hasn't resurfaced yet. Almost all of those runs were on soft ground, so the ground's going to be fine. That Cheltenham race, that was over 3 miles, 3.5, so he should stay the trip. He certainly stayed really well. He plugged on really nicely even when West Approach went past. So, the one concern is he's right at the bottom of the weight. He's carrying 9.13 at the minute. But whether Ballyoptic's an intended runner or not, if he is, then obviously he's going to be £1 out of the handicap. If he's not, then the weight's going to rise £9. I think on this occasion, I'd probably rather the weights rise a little bit. I don't really want one dead at the bottom of the handicap. But, he's got the form to go close, definitely. I think 14-1 is a decent price, but unfortunately, without knowing that he's gone, I wouldn't be looking to back it anti-post.
So that's going to wrap up the handicap chase that we've just covered there. I'm going to leave you guys the opportunity to talk about any other horses you want for the weekend before we obviously go to the weekend nap. So Ryan, I believe you've got a few you quite fancy this weekend.
I've got a couple. I'm not 100% sure if they're runners yet. In the 205 market raising on Saturday, Crooks Peak for Dan Skelton. This horse started the season with Philip Hobbs and went novice chasing and was well beaten 85 lengths by Darling Mai Tai and then 34 lengths by Foozle Raffles before coming second to Locker Room Talk at Kempton. That was good form. Off 33-1, he went off that day, and it was second time cheap pieces and seemed to bring out huge improvement. He's then left Philip Hobbs to go to Dan Skelton, which for what reason I don't know. And he's turned up in a handicap hurdle at Cheltenham and beaten 23 lengths by Breffin Boy with Bridget Andrews on board. I wouldn't read too much into that. At the time, I thought it drifted on the day, and I thought that's not a horse that's going to be winning anytime soon. Back over hurdles, I thought maybe they'd go back chasing. It was just a run to get to know the horse and sort of go from there. But come back out of Kempton on the 27th and beaten 50 lengths by Kazland and had Dave England on board. So again, I wouldn't read too much into that. I think this is a horse waiting to win. I wouldn't back unless Harry Skelton was on board. I wouldn't be backing if Bridget was on board or another outside claimer was on. But he's currently 12-1, and I think he's got the form to boot with the Locker Room Talk form. And back over hurdles, a lot better hurdler than he is a chaser, and the money may come. And if the money comes in, I'd be doubly as confident.
Any other horses you got there at all?
The only other one I've got is On the Blind Side if he runs in the 240 at Market Raiser, and obviously he ran last week behind Fabulous, which I think is the best piece of form in this race. Muhayyad, I don't know if 3 miles is still the trip for Muhayyad. He's running well, but I'm not 100% sure. Little Rockefeller's fairly inconsistent and he's 10-year-old now, so 6-4 I'd be avoiding him. But you can currently get 3-1, 11-4 on the blind side, who's probably having the best season of his career. He's won back over 3 miles. He came a close second next time out over 3 miles in a handicap at Cheltenham, and then has that form behind McFabulous, which I think sort of 150s form. So he's definitely the best horse in the race. It's just whether he turns up. So I'd be waiting to see first. But that's the only two I have.
Have you got anyone you want to talk about at all, Tom, or just go straight to your nap?
Yeah, I've got two. One of them's not priced up though, which is I say it's a shame, but currently nothing in the race is jocked up. The one that is jocked up, priced up, is in the Leamington Novices Hurdle. I really like JBY for Alan King here, and he's already a course and distance winner. And if you look at the winners of that race, it's usually the source of a really good race. So the last few years, it's been won by Champagne West. He later went on to win a Thyestes Chase. Kyle Moore-Lough, he won a Group 1 at Fairy House. Born Survivor, he's came out. He was actually beaten in the Leamington as favourite. He's obviously won at Weatherby and Ayr in those listed handicap chases. Willoughby Court came out. He won the Leamington next time. Birchdale won it. He won the Cheltenham Ballymore trial. I think that was New Year's Day, or maybe the Ballymore trial at the end of January, I think it was. Either way, obviously, turned out to be quite a nice horse. Welsh Saint won it. He was really well fancied for the Pertemps last year. So yeah, I think obviously that race has got a really good roll of honour. The time of the race was pretty slow, to be honest with you, so I can see why he's been underestimated by the market. But I think that was mainly down to the fact that they went really slow early on. But I think rewatching the race, I was really impressed with the way he won. He travelled really well. It was just the way that he put distance between himself and the field after just a quick tap down the shoulders. Came home in his own time, eased down. He was really well fancied for his bumper. He went off 4-1 for what was a really hot bumper, and he was absolutely garbage. But they put him away, gave him a wind up. The wind up seems to have really done the trick with him. I think at 8-1, he's a cracking each way bet personally. I do respect Midnight River in that race because it's very much a Dan Skelton target race. He's won it twice, and obviously he's had some fancied runners each year. But yeah, JBY at 8-1 is a great each way bet for me personally. And the other one that I'm keen on, but it's not priced up, that comes from the Warwick bumper. Sure Touch for Ollie Murphy and Robert Whaley Coyne. He's side by Yates. Yates, obviously, a really good bumper progeny source, if that makes sense. He's a half brother to the useful Free Thinking. Free Thinking won for Robert Whaley Coyne and Nicky Henderson quite impressively on bumper debut. He's also a half brother to another bumper winner for Nicky Henderson and Robert Whaley Coyne as well. The Dam is also a half sister to Long Run, so he's really well bred. Ollie Murphy had a couple of winners at Hereford on Monday, so I think maybe his form might start to turn a little bit. It's very much going to be a price thing, but you've got Paul Nichols has got 2 in there, Harry Fry's got 2 in there. So I think hopefully you might get a nice each way price about Sure Touch for Ollie Murphy in the Warwick bumper.
All right, the weekend naps. Hopefully we can get 2 fantastic naps from you boys. Ryan, I'll head over straight to you for your nap of the weekend.
I'll go market raising 205 Crookspeak, who's available widely at 12-1.
Tom?
Yeah, I'll go JBY in the Lamington Hurdle at 8-1.
Brilliant. That is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Betting Heat. I do really hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll hopefully be back next week where we'll be looking at the Clarence House Chase. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next week.